Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket or are you just happy to see me?
Lana. 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 Lana!
What? Danger zone.
I feel the need for speed. Start the cam. Welcome everybody to the first in the ones and twos for this month, where we're talking about Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. And I specifically wanted to do something that was pretty much centered around the military because this coming Monday is Memorial Day. So for the ones and twos, we picked one of the most peak masculine sets of movies there are pretty much in the world, and that is Top Gun from 1986. And then the sequel that came out nearly over 30 years later, which is kind of a surprise when they announced that they were doing it, because it was almost 30 years at that point when they announced it.
Yeah.
Top Gun Maverick, which in a rarity from Hollywood is how you do a sequel decades later that no one was asking for, pretty much. It's how you do it, by still respecting the first movie. All right, but introducing new characters that, oh my god, we actually give a shit about.
Yep.
Not at the expense of the original characters, namely Maverick, because, again, it's Top Gun Maverick, so it's going to focus on Maverick. Then you had Iceman also returned for that movie, Val Kilmer, and so forth. With the, basically, references to, back to the original film, pretty much. So... But we are talking about the first movie tonight, and that's Top Gun Maverick from 1986. Not Top Gun, not Maverick. Top Gun from 1986. Tom Cruise plays Pete Mitchell. His call sign is Maverick. That's why, hence the name, pretty much. So before I say hello to the chat, and I'm going to pose this question to the chat. Pose two questions to the chat. One of those questions specifically to Orange Chat. Of the two, which would you say you prefer, Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick?
I'm going to be 100% honest. I prefer Top Gun Maverick. It's extremely rewatchable. Where Top Gun is, I can watch that pretty much once or twice a week. Where Top Gun Maverick, I can literally watch that every day and not get bored.
Mm-hmm. So I would agree with you there. My reason would be not just the rewatchability, but I would actually give the edge story-wise to Top Gun
as well.
I would give the edge story-wise. I mean, I love Top Gun. I'm I have nothing against simple stories or anything like that. The story itself is not exactly simple, but it is a bit simpler than Top Gun Maverick in a sense. So I have nothing against it. But in terms of the characters and the scenario and so forth, I do give the edge to Maverick.
Yeah,
it's a slight edge. I do love Top Gun, but I give the edge to Maverick in terms of which one of the two I would give preference to.
Definitely.
So that's a question that also posed to the chat, and also, what do you think your call signs would be? So basically, because I'm used to it in the military. I mean, I never had need for one because I was never a pilot. But what would your call signs be? They're typically one word because you have to be able to get them out quickly whenever you are in certain situations. So you have Maverick, Goose, Viper, Jester, Hollywood, Iceman, Wolfman, Slider, and so forth, pretty much. But from the top, I see Trey. What's up? Good to see you, Trey. Feel the need for speed. Yeah, and also Great Balls of Fire. Love that. Megatron just comes in and says boobs. Hello, Megatron. Corey, hello, good to see you. Vanya, good to see you. Yes, this is my kick. I am 9 away from 150 on kick, and I said, as per goal, if I reached 150, I would wear my Wonder Woman bikini for one stream, and apparently that makes me an e-thought, according to the Andrew Tate Sims. So,
yeah,
for one stream. And yes, rest in peace, Tina Turner. So yeah, she did pass away, which is unfortunate because I swear to God, it's like that meme where it's like, "Dear God, give me back so and so, like this group will give you this group pretty much. It's like more and more becoming like what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because like what passes for talent nowadays is like shit.
No, I want to go back to the 90s.
Like give me like bring like give us back like Freddie Mercury, Tina Turner, David Bowie. Like give us back like the actual artists. We'll give you the shit entertainment that we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
So Charlie, what's up? Angel, good to see you. Yes, Danger Zone. Yes, Soul Assassin, good to see you. And like America, yes. $2 super chat from Winky Winky Woo. So be my Goose. Thank you for the $2 super chat. You know, talk to me, Goose. Ms. Martin uses hello. Keely, what's up? So the Oz, Tomcats, Hornets, Tigers, Fulcrums, Felons, and Hines. Is anyone else hard right now? F-14 Tomcat, F-18 Hornet, which we will see in Maverick, basically, because they go from the F-14 to the F-18. Fulcrum is the MiG-29, and because the MiG-28 is a fictional plane, is a fictional MiG. Because the MiGs, if you like look at the number designation, they're odd numbers.
Yeah.
Like ours are even. The Soviets said, "Fuck you, we're making ours odd," pretty much. So it goes from MiG-27 to MiG-29, which is the Fulcrum.
Well, the Russians are odd, so.
Yeah. So like for those who are not aware, the MiG-28 is not a real plane. It's not an actual plane.
I mean, look at the M or the AK-47. It's odd.
Yeah. So.
However, it is a very good weapon.
I learned how to at one point how to take it apart and put it back together. So
Nice.
It's actually a pretty simple gun to do that too.
And it's a very well put together gun too.
Mm-hmm. So Maverick.
As for my if I had a call sign, if I remember correctly, you don't get to choose your call sign. It's chosen for you. If I remember correctly. Because that's what I was always told by family members who have
generally it is given to you.
Yeah.
And typically there's like a reason behind it. It's but like I said, because there's really no one to give anyone the call sign because we're not in the military. I figured I'd leave it up to like basically the chat. What would you, if you like in a perfect world, if you could pick your call sign, what would you want to be known as? Pretty much
orange.
Like I said, it's typically one word because you have to be able to like ideally mine would be Lady Death if it weren't trademarked. Yeah. But it's 2 words. I can't. That wouldn't be a call sign. Pretty much, I'd have to like have like a one word like Hellfire, or something like that. Pretty much.
Death Knell. I believe that is one word. It's hyphenated.
Yeah, but even hyphenated, they're kind of iffy on. But
oh fuck them.
Yeah. So respect equals not paying the original creators properly for the sequel. So to each their own. To each their own. Pretty much. I mean, like. I'm not defending Hollywood when I say this, but at the same time, it's like really Hollywood has been shit for decades. Like this is nothing new. Anything the Hollywood pulls nowadays, it is nothing new.
Yeah.
Prefers Top Gun. Yeah, prefers Top Gun 1. The superior homoerotic experience, particularly the volleyball scene. I guess that's what you're thinking about the Oz.
Put it this way: when
movie. Mm-hmm.
When Slider does that pose, women's uteruses explode everywhere.
Yeah, Maverick. I listen to the soundtrack more than rewatch the original. I can see that. Keely likes both. Of course, it would be. Call sign Megadong. Call sign Gala. Reaver. Okay.
There you go,
yeah. Again, rest in peace, Tina Turner, because she was in Mad Max Thunderdome.
Yep.
Would be Sleepy. This is YouTube. Top Gun Maverick has too many moments where I feel like I could get up and go get drinks and snacks. Top Gun, I'm strapped. I said to each their own. To each their own. For me, I was actually probably a bit more invested in the story of Maverick than I was in Top Gun. Again, nothing against Top Gun or anything like that. I love Top Gun. It's just I felt like it felt more cohesive as a story.
Top Gun is a very fast-paced story,
Yeah.
where Top Gun Maverick has a more balanced pace, has a more smoother pace, but still keeps you on the edge of your seat. When I was in theaters, I went from lounging like this to being on the edge of my seat like this when I was watching Top Gun Maverick. I forgot my freaking phone in the theater when I was leaving that night. I had to go back in and get it.
Well, at least you like realized that before you got all the way home, pretty much.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but yeah, like for me, it's like if like what's the biggest indicator for me if I'm in a theater and like I'm out like not invested in the movie is if I pull out my phone
and check your time.
Yeah, and check the time, or I'm going on Twitter or whatever. If I become more invested on like looking through anything else other than watching the movie, then it's lost me pretty much.
Yeah. Or basically when I do my moviegoer review score, however many times I check this in the theater, it takes off a point for each time that I do. Yeah. It's like I'm getting bored now. Check the time. Yeah. Okay, it's now 9 out of 10. Check the time. It's 8 out of 10. Check the time. It's 7 out of 10.
Yeah. So it gets it from like 47 pretty much. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying like it's kind of like I joked that the Soviets wanted to basically do like a basically a fuck you to the West pretty much. Trace like black. That's his call sign. Mike Hill says Top Gun Maverick is far superior to the original. So I give it I give it the edge. Would I say it's superior necessarily? No, because they're basically different feels to the movie. Like the Orange Hat pointed out, it's like Top Gun. The first one is like more fast paced. It's more adrenaline focused, whereas Maverick it takes its time. Where like it does have that adrenaline, but it takes its time building up to that adrenaline. Whereas Top Gun kind of throws you in there.
Where the first one gives you or doesn't want to get bogged down by the protocols and whatnot of the military, because yes, there are protocols that even the actors had to learn about. This or Top Gun Maverick wanted to be a little bit more authentic when they were doing their movie. Yeah. So hence they put those actors and actresses through flight school.
Yeah. But I will give you this. Yeah, Iceman is the better antagonist.
Oh, yes.
He is a better antagonist.
Well, who would have been the antagonist in the first or in the second one? I mean, I know, or they say Hangman, but it's like
in terms of like personality, he's the better comparison to Iceman.
Yeah.
It's like not exactly. I wouldn't say either of them is an antagonist, because when we talk about Iceman, we'll go more into detail. Because technically Iceman is like, to say someone's the antagonist does not necessarily mean that person is a villain. It just means that they are anti the protagonist, pretty much. They're the opposite of the protagonist.
They're the rival role.
Yes. So to say it's not necessarily mean that he's a villain or a bad guy or anything like that. Because at some points, Iceman really is like he's the clear-headed one of the two. Like he's coming across as arrogant, but he does have a lot of good points when he's talking to Maverick sometimes. Like when he's chastising him about how he acts, basically up in the air and so forth. He really has some good points.
Oh yeah.
So like not necessarily makes him a bad guy, but it's just like his attitude kind of makes him come across as such. But
well, Trey, saving your life will actually do that to you. Iceman becomes cool with Maverick by the end. Yeah, it's because Maverick saves his ass.
Yeah. So it kind of does. But anyway, all right. So we're gonna kind of again. I can't really play the clips as much as I would like to. Pretty much, even without the sounds. Let me make sure that I do have this muted, which I don't. I want to. Yeah, so I'm saying it's like it's like when Iceman points out that he's dangerous, pretty much. All right, Even if the audience doesn't agree with necessarily entirely agree with Iceman does have a point because of Maverick's
Aptitude to
attitude towards authority and things like that. His overall attitude, which again does in a sense make Maverick dangerous, because you have to be able to trust your wingman. You have to be able to trust the guy up there with you, to not only basically protect you, but not inadvertently friendly fire you or anything like that. You have to be able to trust. Trust is a big factor when you're thousands of feet up in the air, traveling at how many God knows knots.
Yep.
Right? You have to be able to trust the guy who's supposed to have your back. So Iceman does have a point.
I mean, if you really think about it, everything that Iceman says about Maverick is true.
Yeah.
To every single point where he's like, you're everybody's problem. Everything he says to him, you're everybody's problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like you because you're unsafe. You're dangerous.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, call sign Revy, maybe.
Parappa? What the fuck is a parappa?
Yes, Trey. Yes, you'll be waiting to die now, pretty much.
Rewatching my only negative is
I'll kind of talk about that. Yeah, she is my only real negative about the movie, genuine criticism about the movie. Thank you for the $2 super chat again from Vanya. Happy early Memorial Day. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I
was hoping to see.
I don't know how Trey would feel about you throwing him under the bus like that, but no.
Gigawatt is right on. I was hoping Tom Skerritt would be able to come in for Maverick, but then again, how old is Tom Skerritt now?
You know what? Here, I had the cast up because Tom Skerritt played Viper. Let's see.
I believe he was in his 40s.
When was he born? I hate that IMDb changed the shit around.
Yeah.
Okay, don't show me when. Born August 25th, 1933. So he would have been pushing 90 when this film was
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So he's
pushing 90 now.
So yeah. So he'll be 90 this year. So there's a reason why he probably didn't come back.
He would have been, or he's probably retired, or he would have probably been a retired admiral.
Yeah. Oh, and I see Trey's comment. Michael Ironside.
Yeah.
Loved Michael Ironside, and this is Jester.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna share the screen, present the screen, because I want to show. Where are you? All right. So the movie begins like this, after some of the cast.
Yeah.
All right. This is what you see. And it's kind of faded. Well, let me see if I can get it clearer.
Here.
All right, it's faded. It's blurry on my end. It's blurry on the YouTube side. Hold on, let me just refresh YouTube.
I can see it clearly here on March 3rd or on March 3, 1969. Yeah, I can read that.
Oh, there it goes clear. YouTube was gronking on me. I was looking over on the YouTube, my second monitor.
Oh, yeah, you got pixelated over there, huh?
Yeah. All right. So there is a little mistake in this paragraph. There is a little mistake in here. Can anybody pick it out? I don't want to give a clue, because whatever clue I give, well, I'll let you guys no. There is a little mistake. Hey, Omaha. Yes, I'd love Top Gun.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Can anybody pick out what the mistake is?
I can.
So no, it's not it's, because if you put an apostrophe, it would be it is. So no, it's not it's.
It's a word that starts with A.
Yeah. There is a okay, I'll give you guys a case. It's not a grammatical error necessarily. there's a wrong word used.
Oh.
All right, I'll tell you. I can't. Can you see where my mouse is
Mm-hmm.
on the screen? All right, ensure.
Yeah, it would have been ensure.
Ensure. It would have been ensure. So basically, it's like and it would be ensure. They spelled it with an I in this paragraph, as if they are ensuring.
I always thought, well, ensure is you're ensuring that they actually that is, or I think that might actually be correct because you're ensuring that those who graduated were the best in the world.
It would still be ensure. Ensure. You're ensuring.
I'll have to look it up, the differences between them, because I do believe they actually do cover it, but maybe. I always thought it was Arial that was wrong because AR, or it's not an IAL. I always thought it was an EAL.
So, hold on. Establish needs points first. No, that's spelled right. It's Arial spelled correct. Aerial combat.
Mm-hmm.
That's spelled correct. So, today the Navy calls it Fighter Weapons School. The Flyers call it
Top Gun.
Okay, I'll let this play a little bit because there's no sounds.
We wouldn't even be able to tell if you were playing it. There you go.
And the only other mistake that I'll just point out, again, I'm not trying to be any, negative. So
we're just pointing out an objective flaw. That's it.
Top Gun would be one word. Like when you see it on their caps in the film, that's correct. It's all one word. So, but for the title, they separated it into two words, pretty much. So, but that's just a little just more for your information. Should you be curious? Top Gun would actually be one word. Yep. So that is an actual program from the 1960s. Stemming primarily from the Vietnam War, because when Viper's giving his briefing later, Jester's giving the briefing, talking about how during the Korean War, we were for every plane we lost, we shot down 12 of theirs. All right.
Yep.
Then you fast forward to the Vietnam War, and we pretty much got our asses handed to us because we were up against aircraft that made us realize that we need to really revamp our training programs, because he said the dogfighting was a lost art, pretty much, from the Korean War to the Vietnam War, pretty much. We had lost focus on that aspect of aerial combat, and so we were getting shot down more often because it was a 3-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
When he's going through the briefing. So, but
Jesus.
Top Gun's one word, yes.
And you'll never see him.
They make a mistake in Top Gun Maverick, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, because I watched Back to the Future before I watched Top Gun. So my reaction was the same as Marty McFly's when he sees Strickland back in 1955. It's like, hey, that's Strickland. That was my reaction. That was my reaction. That's Strickland.
Yeah.
So that's how I knew him as. But when I saw him again in Top Gun,
Tolkien was very active in the 80s.
Yes, he was very, very active in the 80s, and still kind of personality wise, it was very in his approach very similar to how he played Strickland. But in this case, it very much works because given his command position, you do have to be tough. You do have to be no nonsense. Particularly in dealing with a rogue personality, in a sense, with Pete Mitchell, aka call sign Maverick, pretty much. You do, it's a believability to that character. He's practically the same character, but
he is.
But more believable in this sense, because in my opinion, because of the fact, given the character he was playing, the command position he had, and then combine that with he's dealing with Maverick.
Yep.
So it works.
Tolkien's best role. I agree with Dan Blackroyd there as Lubick in Masters of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Because he also plays kind of the same kind of character in that one too. So which leads me to believe he plays himself in his roles.
Probably, and like I said, to an extent, it works.
Yeah.
To an extent, it works. And headcanon Principal Strickland joined the Navy after Back to the Future. Yeah, pretty much.
And he got he freaking climbed the ranks in a meteoric rise, man. From 1985 to 1986, he went from freaking private to admiral.
Yeah. Yeah, Jesus, did that guy ever have hair? Yes. Love that, pretty much. But I'm kind of like... So, again, I wish I could play the beginning. Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone. Can't.
Trust me, folks. Paramount loves to... a lot of people say that Paramount is very lenient. Anytime I did a video with any sort of Paramount or Paramount footage or Paramount's or a soundtrack that belongs to Paramount, claimed in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I do love the Tomcats. That is
I'm trying to get shots of. Come on, I hate
which
this.
one are we going for?
I'm trying to get the shot of both, but basically the Tomcat is the F-14.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to get a shot to show you basically the overall design of the aircraft, because in the Air Force, for identifying aircraft, the acronym is WEFT, which is wings, engine, fuselage, tail.
Winky? Absolutely not. I don't sing unless I am drunk, and I don't drink, so never. Or I will never sing on stream. I only sang on stream once, and that was an Elvis song, and I did pretty damn good. You'll have to go to damn, what's his name? He's a friend of mine, or Rosetta, and my friend Anthony. He does a lot of karaoke streams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to get. This is like a little far away shot. I'm trying to get one of the shots that's closer, but just to give you the perspective of like what the Tomcat looks like. Like I said, in Air Force, it's WEFT pretty much. So the two vertical stabilizers, how the wings look, and like the type of fuselage and so forth is how we identify aircraft.
And you never will see another design like the Tomcat going forward, because the Tomcat is literally one of a kind design with the fold or the extendable wings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love the fact that Tomcats make a reappearance in Maverick. And we'll talk about that when we talk about Maverick, pretty much. But I love how it makes a reappearance in that movie.
Yeah.
So yes, like point out like Tim Roth. I also had recently, before now, had recently rewatched Top Gun, and I also forgot that Tim Robbins was in this movie. And the positions that he and Anthony Edwards play, because Edwards is the focus playing Goose.
Yeah.
It's the Rio, and I had to look this up because again, I'm
an officer,
Air Force, yeah, and this is a naval term, but radar intercept officer.
Yeah.
So their job is pretty much to, as an extra set of eyes for the pilots, to let them know where the enemy aircraft is or anything that the pilot needs to be aware of, pretty much.
Also known as a backseater.
Yeah,
and all sorts of other things.
Yeah, so when Merlin, Tim Robbins plays Merlin, that's his call sign. Anthony Edwards plays Goose. So you hear them tell their respective pilots basically brake right or hard right or bear left, and they'll give basically 12 o'clock high, 3 o'clock low. Those they're telling the pilot where to look.
The F-35 is not the Navy's main fighter. The F-35 is Hollywood's interpretation of the Navy's main fighter. I believe the Navy still uses F-18s and F-22s as their their mainstays.
So F-35, not yet for Maine.
According to my friend who's still in the military, and whatnot. I think we only have like at most less than 2 dozen F-35s because they cost like $5 billion to make.
Yeah, so we're not going to do that. Yeah, they still use F-18s.
Yeah,
So,
F-18s.
hence in Maverick, that's the focus pretty much. Like that's when they're going through the Top Gun program, they're flying F-18s still.
Well, in this, it's solely the 14.
Well, yeah, like because like F-18 was after.
Yeah.
Was after hence the designator pretty much because you have F-14, then F-15, then F-16, then F-18 pretty much.
I believe the 15 or the 16, one of them has a single engine or a single exhaust port engine.
I want to say it's the 16.
I have them upstairs, or I have models of them upstairs. I could, but not right now.
Australia replaced the F-18 with F-35 because our government is populated by idiots. Yeah, they pretty much did.
You essentially have no Air Force then.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the F-35 can be versatile, sure, in certain situations. Maneuverability and speed, though, the F-22 will tear it apart.
So
I've seen F-22s in the skies above.
See, the thing is with like the Marine Corps, how do I put this? The Marine Corps is not exactly as known for aerial programs as like the Air Force and the Navy. So
yeah.
So yeah, F-16 is a single exhaust because I'm thinking it was the F-15 is not single.
Yeah.
F-16s
were used in Independence Day, I believe.
I'd have to rewatch that movie, but most likely yes. Most likely yes. But anyway, another mistake, and again, really when I say like don't get your history or anything from Hollywood, again, not an indictment against the movie itself, pretty much, but again, don't get anything from Hollywood because the term bogey is thrown around in this movie. There's two things in this again that's like inaccurate to the military that are words that are thrown out in this movie. One is bogey. Okay, one is bogey. Bogey, it just means it's unidentified. Just means it's unidentified. So for all we know, if someone says like bogey, let's say bogey 10 o'clock low, right? It just means that we can't tell if it's friendly or not. Because for all we know, we could see a plane off in the distance. We call it the bogey and like the position of that aircraft in relation to our aircraft, pretty much. And it could end up being a friendly nation's aircraft. We just couldn't tell because of how far away it is. Or it could be hostile. But if it's hostile, then it's...
Bandit.
Yeah, bandits. Or there's another term meaning that it can be fired upon. So...
Well, to me, those are called targets.
Yeah. So, but there's a specific term where it says, like, that you are given authorization to fire upon it if you are fired upon, basically without needing any other command, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's something that was also stressed in this early scene. Because Cougar gets radar lock on, or the MiG gets a radar lock on him, and he says, "Do I have permission to fire? To not fire unless fired upon."
Yes. Yeah, like there was a bit of trivia. I can't remember the word, but it is a specific word. It's not cleared hot. It's one word. It also begins with a B, I think. Hold on, I gotta look at my military terminology.
Tally?
What?
Tally?
No, hold on.
Because
it is just hostile. It is just hostile. Like,
yeah.
So basically, if it's given the designation of hostile, it's basically fire at will.
Yeah, or you're cleared hot.
You're cleared.
That's Courtney.
You're clear. Like that is the term, but basically the one word, command, or not command, but like, from your commanding officer, if that commanding officer says hostile, or if, like if that's a designated given to the aircraft, then that is basically the permission given to the pilot to fire at will if like, it ends up being an enemy and like we're fired upon, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it goes bogey. Right, bogey just means it's unidentified, but because it sounds cool, they throw it around in this movie to mean the enemy aircraft, pretty much. Like bogeys, 3:00, pretty much. And then my little one that gets my eye to twitch a bit is it's classified. I'm like, ugh. So it's like,
Yeah, they don't throw that around in the military a lot.
no,
Not as openly as they do in this movie.
No, but even that, like, what like makes my eye twitch is the fact that the assumption is if someone says it's classified, it like people's minds go, oh, that must mean secret, or that must mean top secret, things like that. Like, it's like, need to know information, but unclassified is a classification. So if someone says to me it's classified, I'm like, okay, what? Unclassified, confidential, secret, top secret? What's it classified? Pretty much.
Yeah, classified only means that there is a clearance to it.
Yeah.
Where it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like a make to a model.
Yeah. So that might be because like the hostile one is more Air Force terms. I don't know if like Australia is different, because it could be like Tango could be the same thing as hostile, pretty much. I don't know. But I've never seen Tango be used. I've just seen hostile. So it goes bogey, bandit, hostile.
I've seen Tango used once or twice in movies, but I can't remember which ones. Pod Racing Palpatine. What the frick?
My Little Pokemon.
I like the name too, man. I mean, that name's amusing.
Yeah. I thought classified meant only to be released on Discord by 20-year-old IT techs playing Minecraft.
Wow.
Like, just to give like a little bit of like military education, and this will go to a little bit later on when we find out what happened to Pete Mitchell's or Maverick's dad, because there's a little there's not a mystery, but there is a little bit of an uncertainty about what happened to his dad, because we find out early on that Maverick lost his dad when he was very young, but he has no idea the circumstances, pretty much, because because the military classified it to such a high degree that it's wasn't talked about, which led people to speculate that his dad must have messed up somehow.
Yeah,
pretty much. And
hence the line in this movie when Tolkien is talking to him and Goose. And let's be honest, Maverick, your family name isn't the best in the Navy.
Yes.
When in fact it actually kind of is.
Yes, and then when we'll talk about that a bit later, but there are scenarios in the military where the information itself might be unclassified. All right, might be unclassified, but what we'll do is we will designate it, like, say, secret, at least, pretty much. And that could only be, that could primarily be to protect the person or persons providing the information. Like, if it's someone giving us information on the Taliban, let's say, pretty much. And it's not exactly the information itself would necessarily be secret or top secrets, but we'll do that to protect the identity of whomever is giving us the information so the Taliban doesn't go after them or their family, pretty much.
Yeah. They actually do mention, Epi, they do mention what aircraft his father was flying in the movie when Viper tells him about it later on. I just can't remember what it was.
Well, it says F4.
Yeah.
Typically, like, F4s were flown during Vietnam. So, and Viper, drops, fairly early on in the movie. And again, it's when Hollywood used to not basically close the circles on their stories pretty much. Like they don't haphazardly drop lines here and there and just do nothing with them. Because Viper mentions, I flew with his dad. When he's talking to Jester, I flew with his dad. So it tells the audience, but basically without, again, stressing to the audience that Viper most likely knows something. Viper most likely knows something. He said he flew with his dad. So when we find out later, yes, Viper does know something. He does know something.
And he even tells him, what I'm about to tell you could end my career.
Yeah, because again, it's just to also give you another perspective. The information I looked at, I wouldn't. The first piece of information that was like classified, anything beyond unclassified, I would not be able to tell anyone until I'm like early 90s. Unless I somehow find out that it's been unclassified, I can't say anything until I'm like 94.
Wow.
Just to give you perspective on the shelf life of the information. So when Viper is saying it could end his career, he's not kidding.
Yeah, he would be doing life.
He would be breaking the law, pretty much.
Yeah. And federal prison, or when you got military has their own laws. There's military law, there's federal law, and then there's state laws and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Military and federal do coincide. However, military laws, if you break the laws, they dispense their own justice for the most part.
Yeah. I will hurt you, Dan.
Oh,
I will hurt you.
Jesus Christ.
Yes. All right, but in this scenario, which again, in a sense, plays out again later on in the movie, is this again? I wish I could play these clips. Is the first encounter with the MiG-28s, pretty much, because you have Maverick and Goose. They're piloting, or Maverick's piloting one of the F-14s, and in the other F-14, you have Cougar, along with his Rio, Merlin, played by Tim Robbins. And they're basically patrolling that area, and lo and behold, these two MiG-28s seemingly come out of nowhere. And again, like you pointed out, Cougar even asks, it's like he needs to know what to do, pretty much, and he's giving the orders not to fire unless fired upon. All right. So you have multiple things happening in the scene, which I like, and that is you get a sense of how Maverick is as a pilot and his personality, and as well as his relationship with Goose, and also the breaking point some pilots face in this scenario when basically Cougar, you have MiG-28s. The MiG-20, I mean, not trying to necessarily minimize what exactly is happening in the scene, but the MiG-28s were pretty much ultimately toying with the F-14s. Because, like as Maverick points out in the scene, if the MiG wanted to fire upon Cougar, he had plenty of opportunity to do so. He's just toying, like they're just basically just toying with them.
They're begging for an international incident.
Yes. So like they're waiting for the Americans pretty much to fire first.
Because at this time we were still in the Cold War.
Yeah, it's 1986. It's like, close to the end of the Cold War, but it's like still it's in the 80s, and that's very much when like a big part of the Cold War. So like these MiG-28s are coming out, and they're they're trying to start beef. They're basically trying to provoke the Americans into firing first, so that way they can claim. So whatever retaliation the Soviets take, they can point to the Americans that they started it, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like it says, it shows a breaking point that some pilots face, because Cougar, the actor to his credit, is only in this scene pretty much. And like I had to look him up because I was watching this movie and like he looks really familiar to me. The only other movie I've seen him in is Christine. He played the friend in Christine about a few years earlier. Now, so he's really only in this one part, but it's incredibly important to the plot, and then like it, what happens later on in the movie harkens back to what happens to him, and he pretty much gets PTSD while he's flying because he's he hears the missile lock, like the controls in the aircraft is telling him that this MiG has him locked in his sights, and he like would fire missiles at any time, and his mind is racing. He's processing everything, and part of what he's processing is, like we see the picture in his plane, his wife and his child, and he gets to a point where it's like he pretty much tells Stokeland character.
Yep.
Now his call sign is where is it? Stinger. Stinger.
Yep.
That's his call sign. Tolkien's character is Stinger. It's like I'm wound too tight.
Holding on too tight. I've lost the edge.
Yeah, I'm holding, and like it's like, and everything was going through his mind. And I like that actor. Let me see if I can get a shot of how he looks.
You should be in sickbay. What's on your mind? My wife and kids, sir. I almost orphaned him, and I never have even seen him.
Yeah. Yeah, like, Merlin's telling him, like, we're low on gas. And Cougar even removes that. Like, you see, like, basically the sweat on his face.
His life is passing before his eyes during this whole freaking scene, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
By the way, you're going to get claimed.
Well, I'm kind of used to it at this point.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's hard to get the shots. Like what I'm going to have to try to do for like next stream or streams moving forward is trying to find as many pictures as I can when I have time, and like putting together kind of like a PowerPoint thing that just plays stills as we're doing this, because I'm like I can't win. Like no sound is playing. I'm not even playing the movie enough for anyone to even remotely download the stream and pirate the movie off of it or anything like that. There's no way I could do it. And yet for some reason some bot on YouTube gets triggered. And
they get triggered with me every time I freaking do a video.
Yeah.
It's like, oh crap, this asshole posted again. Oh shit, he's got 1,000 views. Let's cap him right there.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So
my normal reviews, they get like 20 to 30 freaking views. My shorts, if they're a good short, gets 1.3 to 1.4 thousand. Then they cap them, folks.
Mm-hmm.
They literally have what's known as view capping.
So, hello, Dick Champion. Yes, again, rest in peace, Tina Turner. I know I shouldn't wish this really on anyone, but I really want God to take the crap entertainment celebrities today and just give us back the actual artists that we lost.
She was simply the best.
Yeah. So, hey, Abomination. Yeah. So, but
yeah, yep.
It's like as fictionalized as this movie is, given the perspective I have of being a military vet, it does accurately portray emotions the pilots go through. Like you pointed out, like his life pretty much flashed before his eyes. In that, like the time itself was short, but like I said, the actor, like I said, the character is probably in his late 20s. Like every year of his life just flashed right in that moment, and he basically had to come to terms with what's important to him, like what's ultimately important to him. And that's why he gave up his wings, because he has a wife and he has a small child. Yeah,
he hasn't even met his kid.
Yeah, and he's and to do that, he gives up his wings. I wouldn't say necessarily that he like leaves the military per se, but in this sense, he's like no longer a pilot at the very least.
I think you'll find that they may have actually medically discharged him.
Possibly, given the fact that he was in sickbay, very likely, but they don't say.
Yeah,
really.
They never tell you implicitly what happens.
Yes, like you can make several assumptions as to like what happened to him. They could have given him just a desk job somewhere, for all we know. So it's likely at the very most he would have been medically discharged. Mm-hmm. At the very most, at the very least, pretty much he's no longer a pilot. They shift him to another section where he has a desk job, like a nice, safe desk job somewhere, pretty much. Yeah. Which would be part of like a relocation, so that way he could be near his family.
Yep.
So there's again, him putting his wings on the table does not necessarily mean that he left the military per se, just that he's no longer a pilot.
Yep.
So,
Cougar
but
lost
again,
it, turned in his wings.
yeah. So again, not trying to fill in the blanks for this movie necessarily. I'm just saying that knowing what I know how the military works, those are likely scenarios. But again, we don't need to be told. We just know that he was number one. He was actually the best pilot because Stinger's not
Of
only
that squadron.
of that squadron, and Stinger's not only reaming Maverick and Goose for the stunts they pulled.
Putting hack twice by me.
Yes.
Flybys over 5 air control towers and 1 admiral's daughter.
And I love that because they bring that fucking character in
the second movie.
In the second movie, and it
works. Not a one-time name drop, but because Meg Ryan mentions her later on too with Penny Benjamin, a 2-time name drop becomes a main character in the sequel.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
It actually works because it, again, harkens back to the first movie and she's the Admiral's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that so again, not having to have every beat explained to the audience can piece together, oh, she's the Admiral's daughter, that's Penny Benjamin. That's why he has a relationship with her. He knows her. So again, how you do a sequel, Hollywood. This is how you do a sequel. Where you can include a character whose name was just dropped twice in the previous movie. It has somehow makes sense.
Well, you couldn't exactly bring back Kelly McGillis. Let's be totally honest here, folks. Where Tom Cruise aged like fine wine. Unfortunately, I'm keeping it real, folks. Kelly McGillis aged like sour milk.
Yeah, she really did. And she, again, is my one criticism with this movie. I don't have anything personal against her performance or anything like that. She gave a decent performance with what she was given.
Yeah.
I just don't buy the chemistry between her and Tom Cruise.
No.
Not in the slightest. So, and also it's one of those situations where just because she's the only female character in the movie, stop making them love interests. It's one of my favorite military movies is Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood. That's one of my favorite military movies. I hate the scenes with the ex-wife.
Yeah.
That's my perspective, pretty much. Back in the day when audiences were treated with respect, yes.
I mean, when he says that he's sending them Top Gun, I absolutely love.
You can tell, it's he. I love the delivery because he's Cougar essentially made that decision for him.
Yep. I gotta do something here that I still can't believe. I gotta give you your dream shot. Yes. You two characters are going to Top Gun.
Yes.
And then I love the warning. The warning, folks, this line still measures up today. You screw up just this much, you'll be flying a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong.
Yes.
I'm like, now the one thing I do think is a little bit iffy when it comes to military decorum. I mean, I'm not military, folks. Mara is former military. I'm not military. However, my family is military. One thing that my family or a family member who was in the military once said is that scene there, Goose would have got a reaming for not saying thank you, sir, to a superior officer. He simply just says thank you.
Yeah. Most likely would have gotten a reaming. Most likely. There are instances where given the fact that they are officers, chances are probably would not have gotten as much of a reaming as if say they were enlisted.
It's at his discretion.
Yeah. And it is at the commanding officer's discretion how they handle that situation. So yeah, I can see. Yeah, like technically, not saying sir would have gotten someone a reaming. However, it is up to the discretion of the commanding officer, the higher ranking officer, as well as like Maverick and Goose are themselves officers, lower ranking officers, but they are officers versus like enlisted
lieutenants.
Yeah, versus enlisted.
Yep.
So,
I mean, basically, what they would have said is, "Thank you, what?" Or basically, give a small reminder to them that they slipped their decorum.
Yeah. So again, totally up to the discretion of like whatever commanding officer is there. They're like basically their own mindset, pretty much. I've
let it
actually
slide because they were excited. Let's just
I will say it's like he basically just gave them their dream job. So I get and he's probably gonna let it go because now they're out of his hair.
Yeah.
He has no hair, but they're out of his hair nonetheless. So he doesn't have to deal with them anymore. So he was like, go away, pretty much. You're someone else's problem now, pretty much.
Yep.
I've actually seen when I was in tech training, I've actually seen officers go out of their way to avoid enlisted because they didn't want to salute back.
Yeah.
I've actually seen that. Because again, I do make fun of officers. I say they don't breed them for brains, pretty much.
Yeah.
But to be fair to them, it would get annoying having to salute and keep your salute up if you're passing like a herd of enlisted, pretty much. So I've seen them actually go the long ways around to avoid the enlisted, like going to basically to the classrooms.
Yeah.
Thank you for the $2 super chat. Gaming, talk to me, Mara. Yes. So
he paid $2 and all you gave him was a yes?
Yes. Well, yes. I'm talking to him, aren't I?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, I mean, it could be a respect thing, but like I said, it's like just like my military knowledge. I've seen different situations where Orange had said, yes, I can see like he would have given them a reaming, but at the same time, I'm like I've seen situations where it's different factors come into play, pretty much.
Yeah.
Different variables. So it wouldn't necessarily. So it's not really as black and white as like you would think sometimes, even in the military. But yeah,
unless the dude has to stick up his ass and is like really high up on the wanting to get a person in trouble and shit.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen that with officers.
Because my grandfather had one of those ones in World War II, and he loved to bully the. He didn't just order them around; he outright freaking bullied his soldiers and whatnot. And well, my grandfather, he had made, I believe, corporal, and the following day after he caught that officer freaking hitting one of the lower ranked soldiers, they pulled a disregard rank, let's just say that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
he was busted back down to private the next day. He got promoted like 3 days ago. He was back down to private right after that fight.
But for me, I would have been like worth it.
Oh, my grandfather, I'm pretty sure, did say that.
Yeah.
Or something akin to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm saying, again, there are some good officers, and then there are those that's like you would not shed a tear if they were lost in battle, shall we say.
There are those who are good officer material, and there are those who have the rank, not the experience.
Mm-hmm. So, which is like, for me, in an ideal situation in the military, I can only speak from the Air Force side. I can only speak from the Air Force side. I can't necessarily speak for the other branches. But Air Force side, if you join the military after you've gotten your college degree, particularly active duty, I should say, active duty side, and you have at least a bachelor's, you're pretty much automatically put into the office, like the officer pipeline. You're pretty much skip all of the enlisted, and your lowest rank will be lieutenant.
Yep.
Or I should say second lieutenant, because it's second lieutenant, first lieutenant.
Yep.
I personally think that they should be enlisted first, because more often than not, again, there are good officers, but more often than not, they don't have the certain experience that enlisted members face, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it very much shows in the orders they give.
Yep.
It very much shows. So yeah. That's my disagreement.
Next week, I'll tell you another story about a family member of mine who was a Marine during the Korean War.
Mm-hmm. So again, we're gonna basically
moving on.
The plot itself is simple, so we're not exactly going to cover like a lot of scenes, because really it's just the focus is on Maverick and
Goose.
Yeah, and Goose, but primarily on Maverick and
Charlie.
His military. Well, I'm saying him personally, his emotional states.
Yeah,
pretty much his mental and emotional states. They're finding out early about his family name, and we're kind of hints are dropped here and there through the movie, but for the most part, it's him kind of moving from the reckless pilot to being a wingman, pretty much. It's what it takes to actually be a wingman, not just being a pilot, not just being in aerial combat, but what it means, as Iceman points out to him, basically to watch the other guy's back up in the air, to basically think about more everything else outside of your aircraft, because to Maverick, Goose was important, because Goose is not only his friend, not only his Rio, but his friend. So Goose was really the only family he had. All right,
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically like a brother to him. But outside of that, with the exception of Charlie, pretty much. But outside of that, Maverick really did not give two shits. If you think about it.
Yep.
Yeah, he would have protected those around him, like the other pilots. But if you actually if it actually boiled down to it, he did not really give two shits. And it's his growth through the movie that was the focus.
Top Gun was basically the best thing to happen to him, because he needed the reality check that Top Gun provided.
Yeah. So again, we're not exactly going to cover a lot of scenes, like I said, because that is the premise of the film. It's really ultimately centered around that perspective that Maverick ultimately realizes by the end of the movie.
Yep.
Is the reality check that he gets being in the Top Gun school.
And not only that, he also, during this time, is flying with kind of a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
He's always thought that his father screwed up, so he doesn't want to screw up. He wants to be better than his father ever was.
Yeah, which in some ways, yes, in some ways, no. But at the same time, it's that made him reckless, because he wants to be the best, but that desire clouded everything else, which made him dangerous.
Yep.
Which ultimately made him dangerous. Like I said, Iceman, yes, Iceman is the antagonist, and we'll talk about him, about his performance, but Iceman was right. Iceman was right. He's you are unsafe. And it's because of the chip on Maverick's shoulder, the constantly wanting to prove that he's the best, putting himself into positions where he's somehow making it out on a wing and a prayer. he's making decisions that, yes, they do ultimately pay off, but in the long run, was it worth it? Because you put yourself and your Rio as well as your wingman in danger. It does make him unsafe.
Yep, and he's he's constantly told. He was told by Stinger, and he was also told by Viper, "You're a hell of an instinctive pilot,
Mm-hmm.
but or it's your attitude that is your biggest obstacle."
Mm-hmm. So
Michael Irons, in my opinion, this is one of Michael Ironside's best performances.
Mm-hmm. So
It's
he ultimately
definitely in his top five.
doesn't ultimately have like necessarily a major role in this movie, but it's memorable.
Yes. I mean, he
And-
doesn't. There's times where he's like, "I really want to wring Maverick's neck," but there's other times where he's like, "You did good, kid, but you still fucked up."
Yeah, at a point, like Viper asked, "Would you want him as your wingman?" And Jester couldn't give a yes or no answer at that point. It's like, I don't know.
That was after his first hop, as they call it.
Yeah. It's like, it's basically when Maverick did get the kill per se on Jester, but he broke the
hard deck.
Yeah.
And but here's the thing. Jester went for the hard deck because he got outflown by Maverick. Because as Viper says, he called no joy. And it's like, how are you supposed to gain points in this competition if your freaking teacher's going to chicken out?
Yes, to be fair to Maverick, yes. But at the same time, yes, it would suck for Maverick because you do want the points, but at the same time, it's like...
You broke a major rule of engagement.
Yes. And not only that, but he requested a flyby, was not granted permission to do so, but did so anyway because of his cocky attitude, because in his mind, he's like, I shot down Jester, it's like I proved I was the best against,
Victory lap, so to speak.
I love how he gets the guy to spill the coffee on himself. And then the next time you see the guy, you hear him just yelling at Viper, like, I want whoever's responsible for this.
I want some butts. I want them now. I've had it. And he crashes into another guy delivering a bunch of coffees. He's like, God damn, that's yes.
I just love the look on Tom Skerritt's face as the guy is leaving.
Yeah.
I just love the look on his face.
Oh, that about covers it for the flybys.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what he says too. He's like, "Oh, that's about covers it for the
flybys."
Follow us.
I wish StreamYard would show it, but there is a member message from Mike Hill. Thank you so much, being a member for 17 months. Do you agree with how Top Gun should have ended with, instead of hugging Iceman, should have punched him for the involvement of Goose's death?
No, he should not have punched him.
No, should not. No. Okay, first off, to say that he had involvement in Goose's death, it would mean he was complicit in like it was purposeful, and it wasn't. It was one of those situations where it was really, really bad circumstance, because Maverick was ultimately caught in Iceman's jet stream. All right, which fucked up the engine. Okay, I'm not saying it's Maverick's fault either. It was one of those horrible circumstances where it's fate. Yeah, trade point, freak accident, pretty much.
Two attitudes that were not in the right space, and unfortunately caused a situation that was truly tragic. Let's just say, because Iceman was pissed off because he had to pull out of the engagement, and Maverick was like, "Jesus, fucking finally!" And oh crap. Accidentally went through the jet wash.
Yes. So again, if Iceman had pulled away sooner, maybe, I don't want to say that phrase, maybe, if he had disengaged sooner, I say disengaged sooner.
Yeah.
Maybe this it wouldn't have played out as it did. Maverick wouldn't have gotten caught in the jet wash. Yeah. And Goose wouldn't have ultimately ended up dying because of what happened, pretty much.
I mean, there could have easily been a scene where Maverick does blame, because even at looking at it today, when I was watching it today, it's like I could honestly see an alternate take, or even possibly a deleted scene where Maverick does actually go after Iceman, like, or when he apologizes, or when he's like, "I'm sorry about Goose. He was a good man." There could have easily been a good take where he turned around and said, "Well, maybe if you had not fucked around up there, because yes, Iceman also cut him off. He's like, that son of a bitch cut me off."
Yeah. So again, where I could kind of see, at least in certain scenarios, by punching him, but like to say it was for the involvement, it was more like it would make it seem like Iceman did it on purpose, and he didn't.
He did, yeah. It would have been misplaced grief.
Yeah, it was like basically multiple circumstances that ultimately ended in tragedy. So I can say I see him maybe blaming him to an extent, but it like was not ultimately Iceman's fault, or at least let's put it this way: Iceman did not do it on purpose.
Yeah, and when Viper talks to him, letting him know that Goose is dead and whatnot, he gives him essentially the same speech that Maverick will one day give Goose's son 30 odd years later. You're going to lose wingman, or you're going to lose your wingman. Unfortunately, that is a part of the job. The more you fly, the more greater risk there is. And you can't, or you gotta sometimes think, but sometimes, or there was another scene when they're going through where they're going through one of Maverick's maneuvers in a war room, or whatever they call it. I forget what it's called. And they say this is a good example of what not to do. And he's like, well, up there you can't, or if you think you're dead, which plays later in Top Gun Maverick. Don't think, just do.
Yeah. So, and we'll get like a little bit into that closer we get, because that is a bit later on in the film.
Yeah.
But let's like basically talk about Iceman, because Val Kilmer actually originally did not want to do this movie, but I had never heard this being necessarily a thing per se, but he was actually contractually obligated to do this movie. He said forced by contractual obligations. Now, what those obligations were, I'm not sure, but he originally did not want to be part of this movie. And according to the trivia, it said that Tony Scott, reassured him, "I know that the script is insufficient, but it will get better, Val. Wait until you see these jets. They take your breath away." And Kilmer ultimately ended up liking the movie, ultimately saying, all in all, the movie was both a blast and an education. So basically, let's talk about the antagonist. All right, and again, like in your perspective, that antagonist does not mean villain. People automatically assume villain when they hear antagonist. No, it just means someone that is a counter, either in personality or behavior, pretty much the opposites to the protagonist. They are like where Maverick is reckless, Iceman is by the book. That makes them antagonists. All right, they're foils pretty much.
Yeah, I told no mistakes.
Yeah,
rival.
Does not mean this. Again, people assume it means villain. No, it means he's a bad guy. No, just means that he is a foil to Maverick. So I love how they call him, like they call Goose Mother Goose throughout the movie, pretty much. Hey, Mother Goose. So, and we'll talk about the scene because this is where we meet Charlie, or we find out to be Charlie.
Yeah.
And there's like another piece of trivia in this scene that would actually, I think, probably chat would find interesting, but the banter back and forth. It's like you have Slider in the scene as well, and Slider is Iceman's Rio. All right,
Yep.
so he's. And what did you think of, like, basically, what did you think of Val Kilmer as in this role?
Honestly, going by what I remember as a kid, it's like, or Val Kilmer was, I thought he was the perfect person for it. And even as an adult, when I'm looking at it through a more objective lens, he does fit this role perfectly. He gives off the right attitude, the right mindset, where he has wisdom from from the stuff that he has done, and he's trying to. He has a little bit of arrogance, but he doesn't have ego. He had, or where he's like, well, actually, that's actually not true. He does have a little bit of ego because in this very scene, he's like, "Do you need some help? Have you figured it out yet? Who's the best pilot?"
Yeah, I'm saying, like, with the arrogance comes a little bit of an ego. Pretty much. He does have that vibe, but at the same time, it's like you can see where he's coming from.
From actual Top Guns, because after Maverick, folks, I actually watched a lot of videos of real Top Gun pilots reacting to certain characters in the movies and whatnot, and they actually say some of the best pilots have a little bit of ego to go with them. However, the ones who have the most inflated egos are usually the ones that are kept in the back because they're, well, rather dangerous. Because if you really want to do a nice comparison between what character does Pete Mitchell in the first Top Gun movie really is really a mirror of in Top Gun Maverick, Hangman. He is essentially Hangman in this film, except there's different circumstances, obviously, but Maverick at this point is all ego.
Yeah.
He needs to be knocked down a peg. And that's one of the things that Val Kilmer actually does a really good job at providing.
Yeah, it's one of the first roles where Val Kilmer played in adults. I think, like, Val Kilmer is an underrated actor because he went from this role. He played, like, Mad Mardigan and Willow. A believable others, at least a believable Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
And Batman Forever, where he could have been a good, if they continued it would have been a good Bruce Wayne / Batman. And, like, each different characters. I had Tombstone, I'm your Huckleberry because he played Doc Holliday. Like, different characters, same actor, and, like, showed range.
Simon Templar is one of his best roles, the Saint in the Saint.
Yeah,
because he played like 50 freaking characters in that movie.
So I'm like, he's, like, I'd say pretty damn underrated given the range he's shown in his films. Like, whether or not the films themselves are good is not the point necessarily. His performance in them, like, same actor, but like, totally believable. So, and here's Soul Assassins dropping the link. Top Gun instructors react to Maverick. Yeah, Hangman definitely had more of an ego. Yes. It's like Val Kilmer such a babe. # no homo.
No,
like, he really was. He really was.
Yeah. I mean, Val Kilmer is definitely 80s and 90s top tier. He really did. Ghost in the Dark, The Saint and Ghost in the Darkness are my top 2 Val Kilmer movies. The Saint, Ghost in the Darkness, Top Gun are my top 3 Val Kilmer movies.
Yes. And I love how he came back for Top Gun Maverick. Even for just one scene, I love how he came back.
And he did so in the perfect way, where he accepted the promotions and whatnot. Maverick could never do it.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like, testament to, like, their personalities, where it's, again, like, Iceman is by the book. He's very much the regulations and so forth.
Yep.
Even with a little bit of ego, he's still by the book.
Yep. And Slider,
Yeah.
who folks will remember from another ones and twos that we did, was in Terminator.
Yeah.
He was Ginger's boyfriend, who managed to lift up a Terminator while fighting him.
Yep.
So go Slider.
And so yeah. So and to kind of, I just he also has a little bit of ego to him. Like I don't want to say that he's necessarily a lackey to Iceman, but as far as that relationship, he is kind of
he's kind of the dumb jock.
yeah.
He's kind of a dumb jock.
Yeah, I'd say he's basically equivalent to like the dumb jock in the relation, where it's like, you know,
that's Mr. Iceman to you. He's kind of like the lackey is kind of the perfect role for it. Yeah.
Yeah, a little like I didn't want to say that, but because it made him sound like he's like a kiss up, but he's not, pretty much.
No, he's
okay,
also
he's
also
kind of like the hype man. He's kind of like a little bit of a hype man for Iceman, pretty much.
Yep. He's the hype for hype for Iceman.
Yeah, so it's like, again, I love how this is like an antithesis to Maverick and Goose's relationship, because Maverick and Goose, and we'll talk about Goose because they're all four in this scene. It's like very much kind of like it's a beyond friendship. Like it's, you know, find out from Goose's wife that like Goose is pretty much the only family that Maverick has right now.
Yep.
So they're pretty much like brothers. Whereas Iceman and Slider, there's a definite alpha and
beta.
Yeah, in the relationship. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Slider is a beta, but in terms of the dynamic, Iceman is the alpha of the two.
Yeah. Although when she says he's not a beta, that's because he isn't. He completely can hold his own in a conversation and other things. I mean, when he's like, "Whose butt did you kiss to get in here?" Oh yeah, the list is long and distinguished. Yeah, well, so is my Johnson.
Yeah, he has good. He holds his own. He has good comebacks. I'm saying more in terms of the hierarchy.
Yeah, in the hierarchy, he is below Iceman.
Yeah,
but he will step above Iceman to protect Iceman.
Yeah. So yeah, as I say, like, you know, Maverick and Goose are more like equals.
Yeah.
There's a hierarchy to Iceman and Slider.
Yeah.
And then Goose. I love Anthony Edwards' performance in this movie because he brings this like humor in scenes that, like, you know, like actually brings genuine like chuckles.
Oh yeah, he does that, and he also brings heart to it too, because he reminds Mav, he's like, dude, it's not just you.
Yeah,
I'm with you, but you also got to realize your fuck ups affect me too.
Yeah, especially he says, because like when they're talking after they got their first, he's like, at this point, I just want to graduate.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about getting the trophy. I just want to graduate, because I get they both got like that wake up call.
Yep.
Like the whatever shit you pulled when you were in your like previous squadron, 10 times worse here.
Yeah, it ain't gonna fly here.
Yeah.
The rules are inflexible, or are not flexible, nor am I, is what Vipers tells him.
Yes.
You do it, or you either accept that or your history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you see that Goose and Maverick are out and about, after they get the rip, later on, Maverick actually does apologize to Goose. He tells him, "I am so sorry, man. because Goose lets him know, I got a kid and a wife to think about, and I want to graduate from here too. But if we get tossed, that's gone. So he's like, you got that number for that truck driver stool, truck masters? I'm gonna need that.
Again, like heart but humor, pretty much. And like, we'll talk about Charlie, but in the scene where they had the realization that the woman that Maverick hits on in this scene pretty much is actually part of the Top Gun school in a sense, because she's with the government, she's a contractor, civilian, but she has a top secret clearance, and that's Charlie. When they talk about how he gives the bird, and he's like, yeah, the bird, and
finger.
The finger. Like, oh,
yes,
sorry,
I know the finger.
I hate it when it does that.
I'm sorry.
I hate it when it does that. Yeah, it's not cringe humor. It's actually like it comes across as natural. Like it's not forced. So he's pretty much like the levity in these scenes.
Yep. I mean, and that is such a hard thing to do. You don't see that a lot in movies nowadays, where you could be both the levity and your reality anchor for your main character. I mean, that is something that Anthony Edwards did so well in this film. He plays it, or he is the anchor to Maverick. He's like, you love to be up in the clouds, but brother, I'm gonna pull you out of the clouds if you get too high. Yeah. Essentially is his kind of role. But he also does it in such epic fashion. He's like, okay, come on. Yeah, pretty much. Get your ass down here.
And yeah, so he's pretty like you said, he's the anchor. He's kind of like I don't want to say reality check, but he is someone that
he's the reality check.
He's the one that snaps Maverick out back.
Yeah. Because he's reminding Maverick. He's like, I know you feel like you have to measure up to your old man, but you also gotta remember that you're not alone in this.
Yeah, it's like which character says at one point he's like, what's the line? He's flying against a ghost or something like that.
That was him.
Yeah, I was trying to think
whenever you're up there, it's like you're flying against a ghost.
Yeah, he's he's telling you don't have to keep doing that.
That's the wonderful thing between me and Mara for the 1s and 2 folks. All she needs to do is basically mention a little bit of the line, and I can quote it.
Yeah. Thank you for dealing with that, Trey. I see it on the YouTube side.
We got
I have no idea who that fucking weirdo is, but they're gone.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Mo Monty. I'm not going to highlight their comments pretty much.
Yeah, no need to.
Yeah. So, and then also in this scene, we meet Kelly McGillis' character. We don't know her name, but we meet her character because Maverick tries hitting on her.
With the brilliant rendition of the Righteous Brothers.
Which is probably one of the most famous. When I say famous, I mean oft.
The Righteous Brothers have 2 songs.
The Righteous Brothers is
They have 2 songs that are well known. You've Lost That Love and Feeling and Soul and Inspiration.
And when I was in college, I visited my friend and her then fiance. They've since broken, basically years back they broke up pretty much, but at the time they were engaged, and their roommate and another one of his friends, so you have 3 guys. They basically go off and do whatever, and I'm hanging out with my friend pretty much, and the next thing I know, we hear You Lost a Living Feeling blasted out of their computer, and 3 drunk guys singing to it.
Oh yeah,
tone deaf drunk guys singing to it.
Also, there's another actor that's no longer with us that is also in this movie.
Clarence Gilliard, yes.
So yep.
He plays another the irony in his call sign, Sundown, notwithstanding.
Yeah.
But he's a Rio pretty much. He's like the same position that Goose and Merlin. The radar intercept officer. He's the one in the rear seat calling out the location of the plane, telling the pilot where to go, and all that. Yeah, we'll get to that pretty much. Yeah. Hey, Lancer. One of my favorite franchises. I am first place nationwide in every single category in Top Gun, Hard Lock on Xbox. No, that's cool.
Nice.
We'll be talking about Maverick next week.
Yeah. And
yeah.
That is this scene where he goes up to her is just nuts. Sorry, man, I'll take care of this.
Boom. And then they go into you lost a loving feeling, pretty much. And I love also how the other
the rest of them tune in
pretty much all the guys around them like start singing along with it, so it's like just
it's camaraderie at its best.
Yeah. And in this scene, minus the hitting on Kelly McGillis' character, I'm trying to get a shot of her older dates, because there is trivia about her older dates. Trying to get a shot.
Oh, the guy that was with her, yeah.
Yeah, that guy right there.
Yep.
Her older date. I mean, he's not exactly her date, but that's always referred to in the trivia.
Companion, yeah.
His name is Pete Pettigrew. He is the real life Viper. So that guy in this scene is the real life Viper. He is a retired Navy pilot and Top Gun instructor who shot down a MiG during the Vietnam War. So he served as a technical consultant on this film. So that right there, that man there is the real life Viper.
Did you just say his name is Peter Pettigrew?
That's what it said. Yeah, I know the reference. I know the reference. We're not going to get into that, but that is the guy's name.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it's connected to something else.
Yeah, we won't go there, but
but that is the real life Viper, right there in that shot.
No, the more you know, like Soul Assassin says.
Yeah.
If Clarence was a Ranger, that would have been perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So it's not a reference. It's just he happens to have the same name to something else that is a different franchise that we will not go into.
Yeah. No need to. Shush, Stunning.
Yes. So that's a little bit of trivia for this scene. But anyway, so we got
making a mistake with that older fellow.
Kelly McGillis on.
Yeah, folks.
My only criticism, really, in this movie, I just did not buy the chemistry between her and Maverick.
Yeah. I mean, there is even somebody who's an amateur film critic, folks, like me. It's like, I see that there's an attraction. I don't see love there.
Yeah.
There's not head over heels. Yeah, she says she's fallen for him. I don't see it.
Yeah, that's what I said. The lack of chemistry, because I had to believe that there is something that develops more than just an attraction, and I don't believe it.
Yeah,
that's where the chemistry comes into play, and it's just so even when Meg Ryan's character, because Meg Ryan plays Goose's wife, it's like you would have to be stupid not to realize that he's 100% in love with you, and I'm like, really? What are you drinking? Because I want that. Pretty much. If you believe that shit, I want what you're drinking or smoking, because I don't buy it.
Another thing is, she's literally advancing her career in this film.
Mm-hmm.
She has the top secret clearance. She wants to know about the Meg, but she sticks with Maverick, and Maverick's like, well, don't worry about it. You'll know about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a bit. I could see he was infatuated with her. It was In a sense, I would almost say it's kind of Stockholmish. Really?
Possibly.
Because
Like
he
you,
showed that much affection to her, and she just couldn't help but kind of get swept up with it.
yeah.
That's kind of how I see it.
Mm-hmm. But I think she's more of a mother to him in the way she worried about him. Even then, I don't really see it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I could have seen. I don't. When I say relationship, I mean more like when I say more than just like instructor. She's not really an instructor, but and students, but more like kind of like a bit like if I were to give it, if I were to change this movie, I would say more like just a good friend role. It's like outside the military, pretty much.
Friend with
Like not
benefits.
was that not every role like I don't know what it was with Hollywood back then, but not like just because like you had a female character in the movie does not mean they had to have like any romantic interest with any other males in the movie. Like she could have been just they developed like they cared for each other, but it wasn't like a romantic caring things
And
like that.
again, 80s or mid to late 80s to early 90s to mid 90s were high sexual content films.
So it's like
They were kind of pressured by studios to at least have a love scene if you could put one in.
which like again like I'm not faulting the movie in that regard because it is the studios, but at the same time I'm like like when I was like watching films, like it's just stop it.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a kid, it's like, whoo, cool. But now as you're an adult, it's like, this is so fucking fake.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Like maybe it was a
just
different actress because
fucking
again the
bad.
chemistry is not there, but at the same time it's like it's.
But
I don't
also,
want to say it takes me. I don't want to say it takes me out of the movie, but at the same time it's like I can skip those scenes and not miss anything.
here's another thing, folks. Penny Benjamin, or rather, the person who plays Penny Benjamin, Jennifer Connelly, in 1986, was like 16 or 17 years old. So, if he did it, or if he took her up into a aircraft in '85, which is what they say happened, um, technically, he was taking up a minor in a freaking aircraft. However, I think they upped her age a little bit.
They need it.
I do think that was just something the studio wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's like that cheapens it in a way.
That's
However,
that's kind of like what I said is pointless.
yeah. However, it did offer its good moments in there with what she says to Goose on her way out.
I mean, like yeah, like it does have those like funny moments, but at the same time, it did not need to progress to the point where it's like they developed any type of like sexual relationship. It could have been just like I said, like basically developing like a friendship beyond and Berlin carried the love making scene because that was one of the most awkward scenes I think I've ever watched when they finally do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I really don't need to watch it because I'm thinking to myself, gosh, this is just she looks so fucking nervous in the scene, and when they're finally in the bed supposedly doing the deed, it's like he's now fucking nervous. So it just didn't work out.
No. It really did not.
Not to mention she fucking steals Meg Ryan's fucking line because she's like, well, that's such a great line. I'm gonna use that line later.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Hello, Riker. So Yeah, and like when she says like, "Oh my god," but anyway, like yeah, because like another reason why I didn't really buy it is because she was kind of using him for the intel for.
Yeah, she wanted
Using
the story of the Meg.
Yeah.
To advance her fucking career.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, anyway, but
so how's that for toxic femininity, folks?
Yeah. And like, not really going to talk about like every scene. We're going to talk about Goose's death.
Yeah, right about here. The canopy smack.
Yeah. I'm trying to get a. Hold on. Yeah, because
in the spin, he's pinched forward.
Yeah, so he's like when like so that line like like you see like the
you're gonna have to punch
subtitle like like the caption there like you're gonna have to punch us out pretty much because Maverick the spin is causing I took like basically applied physics in high school and I can't remember the terminology but because like
yawn inertia.
Yeah, it's pushing him against the glass. So Maverick is being pushed forward into the glass, so he's unable to pull the ejection. He's like you have to. He's telling Goose, you have to punch us out. You have to be the one to do it because he's physically incapable of doing it right now. And
because you also got to think about how much cheese you're pulling up there, even in an uncontrolled spin.
Yeah. So, and this happens because he's like at one point he says, "Watch the canopy," because what's supposed to happen is when the canopy goes, it's supposed to clear. All right, it's supposed to clear the aircraft. And it didn't in this case because of the spin they're in.
Yep.
Didn't clear enough. And Goose just goes boom right up into this hard glass. So
and essentially smacking his head up against it, but also breaking his neck.
Yeah. Because
there's no way he would have survived it.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Again, no Paramount's asshole. So like just to guys show you, boom.
Boom. Yep.
Right in there.
And then the face going right into the side of the canopy is why he's bleeding so much.
Yeah. So when you see like them descending, like also what happens is when the canopy clears and their seats eject, it the parachutes the rigging automatically gets pulled. So the pilots and co-pilots supposed to not have to worry about it should they be incapacitated, as we see with Goose because he is incapacitated, but the rigging is set up that the parachute automatically
comes out, deploys.
And Goose is like not falling into the ocean from like thousands of feet because at one point you hear them call out 8,000, 7,000, 6,000. Like then they're like losing altitude that much, that fast. So
you're in a dead drop.
You see Maverick controlling his descent, and Goose is just
his body's not moving when he's falling.
Yeah. And that's what happened.
As he's going.
Yeah.
And the way that Tom played that role or played that scene when he goes up to Goose, when he's freaking the fuck out and holding him while the air or search and rescue are there. You got to let go of him, sir.
Yeah.
You have to let go of him. This is his brother who he has been family with for freaking years.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the kind of trauma he's feeling? And that is another thing. A lot of people, like when we discussed the misplaced anger with Iceman or the possibility of it, the reason, or this movie does a good job in totally dispelling that possibility because he can't understand what went wrong up there. So he can't really place a blame because he's so busy trying to figure out what went wrong.
And he ultimately blames himself because
because
partly because he can't figure out what went wrong, and like in his mind is if I can't figure out anything else that went wrong, it has to be on me.
Yep.
Like it has like he's blaming himself.
He's trying to find an out for himself, and because he can't, he's turned it inward.
Yeah.
And I love what Viper tries to do. Get him up there as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Like once the hearing concludes, because even from our perspective looking in, we can tell that it wasn't Maverick's fault. He still has to go through a hearing to determine if he is at fault or not, and the inquiry, which is basically what happens in the military, confirms what we know as the audience, and that is it wasn't Maverick's fault. Unfortunate set of circumstances led to this result with the plane spinning out of control, and which ultimately led to Goose's death. It was beyond what Maverick could have prevented at that point.
Exactly.
So it was not his fault, but he still blamed himself after that, because he's the pilot. He is the pilot.
In this case, I understand what Viper is trying to do, but it's also one of the most dangerous gambles you can ever have. Mm-hmm. You are sending a person who is not mentally sound right now up into a multi-million-dollar aircraft.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If he fucks up, he could kill not only himself, but his RAO, as well as somebody else, or also mess up the freaking plane.
Yeah, because one of the instances where they send him up again is he had ample opportunity to take the shots, because they even said was it Jester or one of the two.
Jester was basically giving him so many openings, and he wouldn't take them.
Wouldn't take the shot. He's like,
it's no good. Kid. Just take the shot.
And Maverick's like, it's no good. It's no good, because he's like,
what are you talking about? It doesn't get any better than that, because that's what Sundown was up there with him. Yeah. And Sundown tries telling him we could have had it, and that's when you finally see him snap. He's like, I will fire when I am goddamn good and ready.
Yeah.
That tells you right there, he is not ready to be in that damn plane. But what does Viper do? Keep sending him up.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to break him out of his grief.
Because he knows if he doesn't, which is what ultimately Maverick tries to do, but at the same time, it's like, if he doesn't, Maverick is going to walk away.
Oh, he's not only just going to walk away, he would just he'd go AWOL.
Yeah, I'm saying
Maverick would end up in a cell, because he is so freaking broken right now. He's one of the
circumstances where, if you think about it, Viper really didn't have a choice. It was other than medically discharging him or keeping him in sickbay, he had no other choice but to get Maverick back up in the air.
Yep. He's like, we are in, or yes, it sucks, because he even told him, you will lose more up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll discuss more of that in next week, but he understands that Maverick needs to learn this in order to move on. He has to let go of Goose.
Mm-hmm.
But
which ultimately, plays into the story that Viper tells. Not a story, but when Viper reveals to Maverick what happened to his father.
Yep.
It kind of plays into this letting go, in a sense, because Maverick has also not been able to let go of losing his dad and what the circumstances behind that.
Because he's always wondered, how did my father screw up?
Yeah.
Well, then he learns from Viper, who's risking his own career in order to help Maverick heal. Your father did it right.
Yeah.
The only reason why they told it the way it was because we crossed the line on a map.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if that information got out, that's an international incident.
Mm-hmm.
We can't afford those right now. Because that would have kicked off a much bigger conflict, folks.
Yeah.
Remember, Cold War.
Yeah, which is a shame, because it pretty much smeared the good name of
a person who saved 3 other pilots.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like
you drifted over.
You don't want to spark World War III over crossing a line.
Yep.
We were already in, because this was during Vietnam War, and we were already in a war right now, and we did not need another international incident happening.
Yep, because they crossed over into a different border of a different country, and it's like, we just technically invaded sovereign airspace. So we're gonna have to wash this or wash our hands of it, and unfortunately, blame has to go somewhere. And those kind of things, I understand the necessity of them.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely hate when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, that's like, so.
But you gotta weigh the options.
Yeah, I like, he's describing the story. It's like we were in the worst dogfight. It's like, because you're not going to see the borders. Like, you can't see borders or anything like that. It's not like you that's not like the Earth is a map and you can see, oh, if I cross here, I'm over in like this territory, things like that.
Exactly.
So like when you are in a dogfight, you're not necessarily paying attention to your exact position on the map. You're more or less focused on not dying and protecting your wingman.
Yep. And if y'all like games and whatnot, video games, play Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. It's the perfect, or it is a similar scenario of washing up a historical event in order to keep the world on course.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I understand the need. I absolutely hate that it has to happen.
Yeah.
Because you are essentially taking a hero and turning them into a villain. Mm-hmm. Or just taking a hero and making them lesser than what they deserve.
Basically like a hero and turning that hero into a screw up.
Yep.
Pretty much.
And Gigawatt is absolutely right. The boss from Metal Gear Solid 3.
Mm-hmm. I think, like, speaking of Metal Gear, just like kind of like a slight segue before coming back to the movie, it's like there was a Metal Gear reveal during the PlayStation Showcase, and I think they're going to do.
They're remaking 3.
Yeah, I think like they're going to release all 3 like remastered versions, like 1, 2, 3. So.
Honestly, Metal Gear Solid is one of my favorite freaking franchise stories of the.
I think for now it's only going to be available on like PlayStation, so I'm not sure when it would come to PC necessarily, but yeah.
Trey, I've only ever played up to 4. I don't have consoles anymore. I got rid of them.
At some point I will get back into it, but like I have so many games.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like, I mean, granted, my library is not as extensive as say Mark the Cyborgs or anything like that. But at the same time, it's enough that it's like there's no way. I can't easily get back add various games to the roster without excluding others, pretty much.
Let's be honest.
With Spider-Man 2 coming out later this year, I'm actually. Yes, I have to finish Arkham City 2. See, this is the thing. It's like I start stuff and I segue to other ones because, and I want to play Spider-Man. And I want to add that kind of to the roster because Spider-Man 2 is coming out later on this year. So I might do Spidey Sundays, which is I'll talk about again at the end of the stream, pretty much. But I want to play Spider-Man now.
Let's be honest, Trey. You only want her to get back into playing Metal Gear 5 so she can do the quiet bikini.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he. Yeah, I saw the quiet play. So, he's still doing streams. I'm not able to catch some. Yeah, but he's still doing streams. Yeah, just probably not that often because of his schedule.
There's a lot going on up in Canada right now, folks. Shit, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull him back into the military.
Yeah, and I love again, like like how this movie plays out.
Yeah.
Like right as soon as they finish their graduation, shit hits the fan. Pretty much. Which means, and you have Iceman and Slider receiving orders, Hollywood and Wolfman.
Yep.
And Maverick receives orders, and like Viper. I love this delivery from Tom Skerritt. Like you'll get your Rio
when you're on the ship.
Yeah, when you're on deck, pretty much. And if not, give me a call. I love how he's like willing to step up and be his Rio. And then
I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah. Which ultimately didn't happen because they bring Merlin back because like Merlin was Cougar's Rio, which in a way kind of makes sense. But I would have loved to have seen Viper step in, to kind of be up there with Maverick.
Yep.
And act as his anchor, like continue acting as his anchor, because again, yes, Maverick goes to the graduation. He doesn't graduate. He decides to stay, but he's still wrestling with those little demons, pretty much. He almost leaves Iceman. Well,
that's because he also went through another jet wash, and it just brought him right back to Goose.
Yeah, and like he almost leaves Iceman, and
he actually does disengage.
Yeah,
he pulls right out. It's no good. I'm pulling out.
Yeah,
and that's when they tell him it's like, get your ass back, or you need to get back in there, and that's where we get the talk to me, Goose.
Yeah.
Again, but this time when he's not there.
I'm trying to get a shot because he's holding Goose's dog tags.
Yep.
And he's talk to me, Goose, because again it harkens back to earlier in the movies when they were up in the air. Talk to me, Goose. So when Maverick says talk to me, Goose, he's like where's the enemy? Where's their position? Tell me where I need to go, sort of situation. And in this case, he's like, tell me what I need to do.
Yep. Bring me back down to the ground,
Yes. And again, this will play into Maverick. There's a scene in Maverick. I'm going to talk about it now. We'll talk about it again when we talk about the movie. I love the scene where Rooster said, because it's Rooster in this scene. Yep. Talk to me, Dad.
Yep.
He says, talk to me, Dad, because in his mind, he's like, he thinks Dad, he's thinking Goose. All right. When he says talk, and then you hear Maverick's voice. I was like, because in a way, Maverick has kind of been like a second father to Rooster.
Yeah.
So when Rooster says, talk to me, Dad, and then you hear Maverick's voice, I was like, oh my God, that was brilliant.
Yep. Don't think, just do.
Yes. But in this sense, it is Maverick saying, tell me what to do. Because that's essentially, like I said, what the Rio's job is. Yep. Is telling the pilot not everything to do, but giving the pilot enough information so they know what to do in the instance of making sure that they are able to engage the enemy.
And even Iceman had reservations because he knew that Maverick was not steady enough yet. He knew he wasn't stable, but they still put him on Ready Alert 5 anyway.
Mm-hmm. Which again, Iceman kind of gets a bad. When I say a bad rap, I mean people call him the antagonist. It's he's arrogant, he seems like that, but he's right.
Yeah.
He had his reservations, and he was right to have those reservations because just that one instance where Maverick nearly gets caught in the jet wash again. Maverick almost abandoned Iceman and Slider, which would have been if something had happened where Iceman died, would have been hell to pay for Maverick.
Maverick's career would have been over. Let's just say that, folks. Yeah. If he had survived the encounter, his career, or the second he got back on that ship, he would have been arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And thrown in the, I don't know what they call it on a ship. I think stockade.
Yeah. So again, I can't really beat this dead horse enough. But when Iceman says you're unsafe, you're dangerous. He's not really coming from a place of trying to knock Maverick down a peg or two because he wants to be number one or anything like that. It's he kind of does, but he's right. He's coming from a point where he's looking at Maverick's behavior, and he's again, you have to think to yourself, do I want this man as my wingman? Can I trust him?
Yeah. And like I said earlier, everything that Iceman says is correct.
Mm-hmm. He'd be lucky to get just the brig. Like I said, his career would be over. He would get the brig. He would get an dishonorable discharge,
and he'd get jail.
Yeah, which would show up on his permanent
he'd be
record.
He's responsible for the death of those he abandoned.
Yeah, so he would have gone through a lot of shit. So
Yep.
And in a sense, ultimately, Goose ends up speaking to him and snaps Maverick back down to back in like where they are, and he re-engages the MiGs.
And he gets the wake up call he needed because he won't leave his wingman after.
Yeah.
He's not leaving his wingman. Where earlier in the movie we didn't even cover this, but there's the hop between all of them versus Viper and Jester.
Yeah. Because he does because they had it set for where it's like a 2-on-2 situation.
Yeah.
And at one point Viper takes it basically leaves in a sense, basically disengages, pulls away, and you have Iceman and Slider. Is it Iceman Slider?
No, it was Wolfman or Hollywood and Wolfman.
Hollywood and Wolfman, and Maverick and Goose, and Hollywood and Wolfman are on Jester, like stay with Jester, pretty much.
I want Viper, and Viper let him out, and he's like, damn, this kid is good.
Yeah. But at the same time, Maverick left his wingman.
Yep. And that's when Jester basically told him, that was some of the best flying I've ever seen up there, right up to the point where you got killed. You never leave your wingman.
Yeah. So again, oh my god, callbacks in the story that actually play out.
Mm-hmm.
That actually play out. You never leave your wingman.
And
brings Maverick back down, and he re-engages.
And Maverick splashes 3, and I believe Iceman actually took out 1 as well.
Iceman took out 1, and then but Iceman's plane, the F-14, was shot up.
Yep.
So ultimately Maverick took out the remaining 3, and when that happened, the other MiGs bugged off. That's the term, bugged out, pretty much, because oh shit.
It's like, we just lost fucking 4 of our guys.
Yeah, 3 to 1 plane alone, so we're bugging out, pretty much.
It's like, who the fuck is this dude? He just wrecked our shit.
Yes. So.
And to give you guys an idea of the threat, those planes were at that point 110 miles away from the ship. They have a missile that can fly 100 miles and sink said ship.
Yeah. So, and I think in this scene, they originally wanted to use Bryan Adams' song "Only the Strong Survive," but Bryan Adams wouldn't give them permission to use the song because he thought the movie glorified war. And I'm like, are you watching the same shit I am? Because there's nothing glory about this.
There isn't. There really isn't.
There's nothing glorified about this.
I mean, that's the thing. Bryan Adams, it's like, you say that glorifies what the fuck did you think that freaking Robin Hood Prince of Thieves did, you dumbass?
I was like, or basically glorified war or something like that. And I'm like, at the same time, it's like, I'm like watching this movie and I'm like, yeah, I know he wouldn't have known the movie before they asked him or anything like about his song. But at the same time, I was like, I'm watching this movie going, there's nothing that glorifies war in this movie. If anything, yes, it's fictional, but it's just the reality that these pilots go through. You have Cougar that gives up his wings at the beginning of the movie. Maverick loses Goose and nearly loses himself.
Yep.
This isn't there's nothing glorifying war about this movie. Badass, America takes out MiGs at the end, but at the same time, it's like at nearly what cost?
The other side completely denies it.
Yeah.
And
so they couldn't use Bryan Adams' song in this scene, pretty much.
And
it probably wouldn't have worked, but at the same time, the reason that was given was stupid.
Yeah. That anti-ship missile, the KH-31P, had a range of 110 kilometers. The F-14 had to get within 35 kilometers to use their air-to-air missiles, the AIM-9. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So.
I can't remember the name that they used for the missiles in the movie, though. They actually, it's like, you guys have missiles that are or they're using, or these MiGs are carrying these type of missiles, which can take out our ship at 100 miles out.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you do, you get your ass, or if you have to engage, you engage outside of that range. Also, Hollywood and Wolfman got shot down during the engagement. One of the things I really do like is that they show the 6 planes going after ice and how they're just swirling through the air like that. I'm like, that is fucking awesome shit right there, man.
Yeah, that would be because we didn't say anything about the original scenario is Maverick is pretty much the reserve.
Yeah.
If one of them goes down, which ultimately ends up being Hollywood and Wolfman, Hollywood and Wolfman.
Yep.
He gets called up.
Yep.
So, and Hollywood and Wolfman survived. They because he had the celebration at the end on the carrier, which I love because everyone is celebrating. Everyone on the deck is celebrating, because I basically at that point, who wouldn't? Just given the fact that you had 6 MiGs, 4 were taken out, the remaining 2 bugged out, and your pilots and the Rios are back. No one was lost ultimately.
The celebration of life, not death.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie ultimately, I think the movie should have ended here. I did not need to see with him seeing Kelly McGillis' Charlie again. I did not need to see that.
Well, you're right. They could have easily passed over that. However, there was the scene where Stinger goes up to him. He's like, the other side's denying it, but the U.S. government is giving you
see your name on the front page, pretty much.
Yeah, and he's like, they just gave you whatever assignment you want, blanket assignment, anywhere, anytime. Can you believe that shit? So where do you want to go? I was thinking about being an instructor, sir. Top Gun. God help us.
Yeah, God help us. Yeah, but even then, he walks away laughing. God help us. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did not mention that. No, not yet. Yeah, Merlin's the only real Navy Rio in the movie. So.
Well, that would explain it. Huh. Why I'd never seen him anywhere else. Also, there was an admiral in the movie as well. That's in the credits. Admiral, I think something Cassidy. And then you see that it's actually his real name. It's like, oh shit. Also, the guy that got buzzed on the tower ends up on the freaking ship himself again.
Yeah.
When Maverick is requesting a flyby. Negative Ghost Rider patterns. Am I missing something here?
Yeah, because Maverick starts laughing, and Merlin's like, "Am I missing something?" Because, Maverick doesn't do it, but he laughs because it's the same guy, and he's remembering.
And they hand him the fucking coffee when he does the flyby.
Yes.
It's like, God damn that guy.
Yeah.
But you are not gonna freaking rip his ass there because he's coming back a hero.
Yeah. So again, for me personally, the movie could have ended here.
Yeah.
Because even if Kelly McGillis had come back, I didn't really need to see the reunion, essentially, with her and Maverick. That's just my personal preference. It could have ended here and seen the plane, the planes flying off, pretty much. The F-14s.
Perfect place where they could have ended it, actually. After that, they have him down, I believe, or I think this is out of order, but they have him down on the deck throwing Goose's tags into the ocean.
Let me see if I can tell what order.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's after.
He threw the tags and then he talks with him there. That's where they could have ended it.
That's where he could have been ended it, or they could have reversed the scenes.
That would have been better.
Yeah, they could have reversed the scenes and had ended where he throws Goose's dog tags off the deck, and the next thing you see is basically the shots of the F-14s and the credits start rolling, pretty much.
Yep. With using the Righteous Brothers again. I do like the style of the credits that they use because that style of credits was used a lot during the 80s and 90s, specifically Predator, was another use of the same type of credit style where they show the actors and their names and whatnot.
Yeah. I did appreciate that. I liked how the credits were still relatively short, unlike today's credits where they thank everyone and their mother pretty much for working on the film.
Also, in this movie, Anthony Edwards, the only character who died, and is the one that they put as first, which they mirror in Maverick.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer.
All right, yeah.
When fixed with the credits, I would have used
the anthem instead of Mighty Wings.
Yeah.
I'm fine. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much Top Gun. And sorry, the Oz, we did not talk about the homoerotic volleyball scene. I know you're disappointed with that, but I'm pretty sure you can go back and watch that to get your fix.
Do they still have that toxic femininity or toxic fandom girl stream that they do with all those other girls?
I think so.
Tell them to discuss that scene.
Yeah. So one of the most famous scenes in all of movies, pretty much, is the volleyball scene in this film.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that is Top Gun. Can't really don't really want to go into too many details with this movie, otherwise you'd be here for a long time because there's lots.
If we went scene by scene, we'd be here for 3 hours.
Yes. So really, because like I said, the premise is, it kind of excluding the other characters around Maverick. The premise is pretty much Maverick's arc.
Yeah. From
reckless pilots, because they always bring up rules of engagement and things like that. Reckless, chip on his shoulder, doesn't like listening to authority, to you see his growth to the point where he the realization, the epiphany, it's not just him out there. He has to protect his wingman and things like that, and he grows in this film.
Yep. And that's that's another great thing, because Iceman tells him, "You can be my wingman anytime." At the end.
Yeah. And then I love Maverick's comeback, but at the same time, it's not out of any arrogance or anything like that. It's more like the banter between two guys who now have a respect for each other. Yep. It's no, you can be mine. And they
bullshit.
You can be mine. To which Iceman smiles, because it's not coming from, like I said, it's not coming from any arrogance or anything like that. It's the banter, because now you can see that they have developed respect for each other. When there was that, not animosity, but that basically that friction between the two for just about the entire movie. Now Iceman trusts him.
Yep. Oh my, Lancer here. What if Top Gun was in the same universe as ID4? I'm pretty sure he would have been able to survive him. I mean,
probably would have been able to survive. I mean, if Will Smith can do it, Maverick can do it.
Yeah, Will Smith's an asshole, but Maverick's fucking Maverick, dude. Where everybody says Chuck Norris is Chuck Norris, Maverick is Maverick.
Yeah. Or we just sneeze on them. Is that a War of the Worlds reference? Because that's how the aliens die.
Yeah, they get a cold.
Yeah, pretty much get a cold.
I mean, honestly, 8 out of 10 from Trey Courtney. That's actually where I would put this at an objective state.
Yeah.
Or an objective level, where Top Gun Maverick is actually a 9 out of 10 objectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just edges out.
Yeah.
The first Top Gun, but the first Top Gun is still very good.
Oh yeah, it's still very good for its time.
Well, at the same time, Trey, it is based on the book, and that's what happens pretty much. The aliens invade Earth and don't take into account microbes on the planet. So that that really is the plot of War of the Worlds from H.G. Wells. They do get a cold and die.
Yeah, and Trey, I gave it a 9.5 originally myself, and an objective. However, reevaluating it, I can see the flaws now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it does lose half a point.
Second question: could Maverick have recovered his dead spin if he had the Power Glove controlling the F-14?
Wow.
Well, I don't know.
They said it was unrecoverable, so
That's from Signs, yeah. So they
Yeah.
the aliens, they're water is their weakness, and yet they did not notice that the whole planet is like 70% water.
fucking idiots. You got
I know.
water-based
I
life
love
forms
Signs.
and water.
I love Signs, but at the same time, it's like you literally can see from space how much water is on the planet.
Yeah, it's like people call this fucking planet a blueberry for a reason, you jackasses.
Pretty much.
My
Pretty much,
sister
right.
used the ladies' room featured in Top Gun. No shit, man.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
That's
Hey,
awesome.
Greg.
I mean,
So-
yeah. Did her boyfriend nail her on the counter?
But there you go. That is Top Gun. That is Top Gun. Yes, advanced civilization, thousands of years ahead of humanity, doesn't know about germs. Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that is Top Gun. So yes, we will be talking about Maverick next week, the sequel that no one asked for, but ultimately ended up being a very good sequel. Nearly 30 years later.
No one asked for it, but didn't know but weren't aware that they actually needed it.
Yeah. So. But yeah, so again, for those who are just joining in, basically we both Orange and I kind of edged Maverick in terms of preference, pretty much, but at the same time, still love Top Gun.
Yep.
So
Definitely. I mean, Top Gun. There is no Top Gun Maverick without Top Gun, obviously, but there are films out there where their sequels surpass the original. And Top Gun Maverick happens to be one of those.
In our opinion, again, opinions are subjective, pretty much. I'd have to rewatch Iron Eagle. So I would say Viper, but I'd have to rewatch Iron Eagle to say for sure who would be the better mentor, pretty much. Yeah. So somehow Maverick has returned, but yeah, it still makes sense. So, but anyway, thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm definitely going to be bringing a lot of trivia stuff to that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out ways to get stills from the movie, so I can figure out maybe a PowerPoint or something that just plays the stills while we're talking about it. Because again, I can't seem to do anything on YouTube without some fucking bot getting triggered somehow.
Run it on YouTube. They'll allow you to rent it, and you can take screenshots there.
I guess I could probably take screenshots, even watch through Amazon, because I can just do the print screen function on my computer. But even then, I'll figure something out. It might not even be for this one, because I don't know if I'll have time. But for the next one, most likely we'll do that.
That's debatable, Riker. That one's actually slightly more debatable. Top Gun is more realistic. But we'll discuss it next week.
Yeah, it's there are things about it that are realistic, but at the same time there are things about it that I'm like, yeah, I know they took liberties.
Yeah.
So but there it is. So yeah, before I say give my outro and what to expect on my multiple channels, Orange Hats, let them know where they can find you and anything you have coming up that you want to plug.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, where I have two Twitters, the Uncaged OHR, and my other Twitter, which is at Volan OHR, where I give all my opinions on there. You can find me here on YouTube, where I give movie reviews, entertainment news. I'm slacking a little bit, yes, I know, but there's a lot going on. I got mystery reviews every Tuesday afternoon. The hint for next week is North Island, which it's pretty much obvious what everybody is, but it's one of those cosmic coincidences, folks. Also, next week, Sunday, is my MCU Sundays with my Hat Crew, where we discuss the MCU movies. We're up to Iron Man 3 now, so we'll be discussing Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be getting a review out sometime this week for The Natural with Robert Redford.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
And
Alrighty.
you guys can obviously find me here. I'm going to try to put a video out tomorrow since I didn't put one out today because I had to watch Top Gun, and there's no way I was going to be able to do that and put a video out and ultimately end up modding for Lethal because they did a reaction to the PlayStation Showcase this afternoon. But I'm going to try to put a video out tomorrow, and then tomorrow I will be on Twitch playing Bigfoot. I got a little bit of a strat in my head about what I want to try. Now, will I be successful? Most likely not. Most likely I will get my shit handed to me, pretty much, by Sasquatch, because they pretty much buffed him in this game.
Yeah, they make him very hard to kill.
Yeah. But I do have a little strategy working around up here, pretty much. I am going to try something tomorrow. But that'll be on Twitch, and then Friday will be Kick. Figure out what I'm going to play after my solo stream on my YouTube live channel that I'm trying to do early Friday afternoons, where I find some articles to basically break down and talk about with the chat by myself on Jade Shadow Live. So tune in for that. Talk Nerdy to Us will be on my channel. Now, whether or not it's Saturday evening or Sunday afternoon, I have no idea at this rate, because anything goes right now with Steph's schedule and mine, kind of, pretty much. So I don't want to say for sure that it'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern, as like per we normally do on Saturday evening, until I know for sure from Steph what her schedule is. So it'll either be then or early Sunday afternoon time frame, because Sunday afternoon is Conan D&D, and we are like this close to like actually completing the campaign. Pretty much completing the campaign. So there's that, pretty much. And this is the stream that Lethal did with Mazza, Beardo, and Herbs, the reaction, so go check that out. And this is my Rumble. This will be mirrored over there, so should anything happen, like a copyright claim or whatever, you can watch it over there and not deal with the YouTube shit, pretty much. So that is like the plan moving forward. And I do have to say that my parents will be in the process of basically completely renovating their kitchen. So once that happens, videos at least will be like sporadic at best. Will be sporadic at best because of the schedule that I'll be dealing with. I'm still planning on taking the first full week in June off from making videos, just to decompress.
Yeah.
But like also letting chat know, so people don't think that I've like stopped making videos. That is the reason. I probably will not be able to make that many videos during when this is happening, which will last for like several weeks. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So have we thought of June yet?
June, I'll leave it up to you to decide. All right.
All right.
It's either going to be like you decide between the two, or we do a flip of the coin: American Pie 1 and 2, or Bill and Ted 1 and 2. Because I wanted to pick movies that were kind of the 1s and 2s, but the first movie kind of is around the time when graduation is happening, pretty much, which both do. So,
Bill and Ted.
You want to do Bill and Ted 1 and 2?
Bill and Ted, yeah.
All right, we'll do Bill and Ted 1 and 2 for June, pretty much, because that is the 1s and 2s for June. So Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey will be the 1s and 2s for June, and then July will be Jaws. Now, July is going to be a little different in terms of the scheduling, because I want to time the Jaws discussions around the beginning of the month. So we're going to kind of like reverse the schedule a little bit. So instead of Cringe Factory being first, it'll be the 1s and 2s first.
Also, I believe we are having an extra guest on for the Jaws ones.
Yes, because Steve Kenobi, I don't know if he's still in the chat, but he wants to be part of the Jaws discussions.
Yep.
So he will be joining us for the Jaws Jaws talks, pretty much.
Steve's awesome, folks.
Yes. So yeah, so that is June will be Bill and Ted. All right. And July will be Jaws.
All right.
So, and yeah, so unless, like I said, unless anything changes schedule wise, again, videos and streams in the evening. Still going to take the week off, the first week of June, first full week of June off from making videos just to decompress. Yeah, he doesn't like Fifth Element or Bill and Ted. He doesn't like the Bill and Ted movies, which like I'm going to kind of like poke the bear. Yeah, so like go check out Orange Hat on his channels and where he's at, and like check on my channels obviously, and my Twitch and Kick where I do gaming streams. So thank you all again. I will play the two clips that I played at the beginning of the stream again before the outro, and we will see you all next time. All right, so take care. Peace.
Lana. 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 Lana!
What? Danger zone.
I feel the need for speed. Ow! You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.